He was given permission by Arsenal to fly abroad for a personal matter, but he returned later than agreed, leading to implications for Arsenal's COVID-19 protocols. What do you do about this situation, Simon?
Precisely what Arteta's done. Because short-term, prostituting yourself to allow players to do what they want when they want gets you some short-term gain. But in the longer term, when you're trying to build a fabric of a football club, you've got to make big decisions that influence the way the club's going to be rather than the way it is in the short term. And I understand why people make short-term decisions, because we're living in a here and now mentality. But I think Arteta has done exactly the right thing, because he's the club captain. He's a player that's got a history. I mean, we have Martin Keown regularly defending AUBAMEYANG about you've got to love your players, and you've got to do this, you've got to do that. You've got to do that too, but you've also got to underpin it with respect and a fabric that basically suggests that you've got a culture that understands its responsibility, understands the meaning of adversity when it comes, and can overcome it. And if you let these players, irrespective of how good, because it's always the excuse, well, he's a good player. And there are exceptions. In that, Cantona was given dispensation at Manchester United, but he produced every week. This kid hasn't produced for the best part of 15, 16 months. So you can't run the argument that what he did 2 years ago gets him a pass for what happens now. Because there will, of course, I'm not in a proletarian world where everyone has to march in step and do everything the same way. You've got to give geniuses and exceptional players a little bit of latitude. But he's not asking for latitude. He's asking for a rope, both on the pitch in his performance, because he's not doing what he needs to be doing, and off the pitch as the captain. And I think Arteta, in my view, has gone up in my estimation. I still think he's an all-theory manager and he won't be the end game for Arsenal, but I think this is a bold decision, because you've got to make big decisions and you've got to let people know you're either definitely right or definitely wrong in life, or ideally definitely right, but you've got to be definite. Otherwise, if you sit there, players will trade in the grey areas and you'll have a culture that unwinds even more than the sort of easy-osy, lacklustre, little bit lightweight culture that already exists at Arsenal now as a matter of course.
But this isn't the first time that these things have happened, Danny. No. And do you then therefore strip him of the captaincy and give it to somebody else, or do you try and offload him in January? No one's really going to go and pay his wages. Thomas Tuchel always talks about the fact that this is the guy that you'd have to tell him that that you have to tell him the meeting's at 11 o'clock if it's going to be at 11:30, so that he turns up on time. So this is a guy who's got a history of bad timekeeping. What's the solution to the problem? Because you can't afford to be paying him the amount of money that they are paying him on a regular basis. His contract, only signed at the beginning of last season, a 3-year contract worth 55 million quid, and then not use him.
Well, I think if Arteta is backed by the hierarchy to run the club and the players how he wants, then I would take the captaincy off him. You can't have your captain setting this example time and time again. And there's no grey area with that. You want a captain who leads by example and does the right things 100% of the time. His performances on the pitch means you don't have to give him dispensation, because he's not been playing well enough to deserve that. He's done a lot for Arsenal. I think he's majority of his career there has been superb and deserves some credit for that. But when you break the rule second and third time, all of a sudden you're disrespecting the other players, never mind the manager. Look, if I was Arteta, the way he's played now and the way he's probably dealt with him has been, you're my captain, arm round him. He's given him a platform, enough minutes. He's hardly left him out. He's put him in when he hasn't been scoring. I'd go the other way and try and get a reaction. I would take the captaincy off him. I'll kick him up the backside. Whatever fine you can give him. Really nail him to a mast, and then see if you get a reaction that way. And if not, off you go.
Simon, he only signed a £55 million 3-year contract in September 2020. I mean, it's not the first time that Arsenal have handed out a contract and regretted it very quickly. What does it say about Arsenal's decision-making?
Sorry, Simon, just to pull you there, Sam. I think for once, we can't criticise Arsenal 1 second for letting contracts run down and then criticise the next minute for giving their best player a contract. If they want him out, someone will take it.
The bottom line is we only ever talk about how much money they're getting paid when they're not performing, right? So what you want people to do is be paid what they're worth and worth what they're paid. At that point, in this ludicrous la-la land of football, he was worthy of the contract that he was getting paid, because compare and contrast with other people. the idea that you can't get him out, you can get him out, because if you are prepared to sacrifice what you might get for him in the transfer market, because don't forget they bought him for 58 million quid 3 years ago. 58 million quid 3 years ago has now been written down because his initial contract's gone.
More than that, wasn't it? More than 3 years.
Was it more than 3? Anyway, his value on Arsenal's balance sheet is probably zero. So if they sold him for 20 million quid, someone else would be prepared to pick up his 300 grand a week wages, because they're not paying 50 million pound for his transfer fee. So there is a way and a mechanism to get him out. But the bottom line really is I'd be asking my manager, do you want this player? Is he good for the team? He's good for the team if he's doing his job. Then your job is to get him to do his job properly and to understand the responsibility he has. If he really can't achieve that, then Arteta, I think if you strip him of the captaincy, it's tantamount, with this sort of personality, to taking him offside, you're not getting back. And if you're going to take the captaincy away from him, which I think is the right thing to do, you might as well plan for the fact he's going to go, because you're publicly dismantling him, and you're then putting him back on the team as the non-captain anymore. And I'm not sure that will work with some of these personalities, because the genie's out of the bottle.
It's worth a go, though.
It might be worth a go, but I think if you're balancing it against the idea of what the probability is, I think the probability is it'll get worse.
Not afraid of a January move. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, he signed for Arsenal in January 2018, right, so nearly 4 years ago. That's 56 million quid. But yeah, you're right. This is a guy who has had a history of issues.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.